prepare for a distant future. There is much time ahead of us.
I wish to better a future that will exist without me, whenever that day comes. For you, and for our son. We will always walk together, Kratos. You will always be a part of me. I will always be a part of you.
And when you are gone, that part of me dies as well.
I wanted to start this by saying that this is an impulse thing. I think it would just be nice to have a little outlet. And I don't really expect anyone to listen to the things I say, because it's just like a lot, and a lot of people won't be interested in it. But it's also just so I can keep this kind of like chapter of my life here, and I can always look back at it and see what I was like or what I was thinking. But if you are watching or listening, I want to say thank you, and for even clicking on it, for even being slightly interested, and if don't, and yeah, if you want to watch all the way through, yeah, I want to start this by saying that I know I say a lot of things affect me really heavily, like games or experiences within my life, but God of War was one of the first games I ever... Well, it was the first story game I ever played that truly, like, hit me. Like, in the realm of, like, video games, there are different games that will just be fun and entertaining. Like, you have fun. But God of War was so different to all of the other games I've ever played. And that's probably why it hit me so deeply, because I've never played a game that had so much emotion within it. It's... There's so much, like, about it, to the point where it is beyond even a game. It's almost just a movie. It is... Well, specifically, I'm talking about God of War Ragnarok, because that is the one that hit me the most, but it applies to both of them, really. The actors who worked on this project weren't just voicing them, they moved as the characters. There was motion made, and I think that just makes it so much more genuine and real, that it wasn't just a soulless animation, if that makes sense. I kind of want to start the actual stuff with, like, to say, I don't know, summarize maybe the first game, because in the first entry of God of War, he is so angry, and so it's just fighting and anger. That's all it is behind him. And Santa Monica Studios, I think they made the... I don't know if they made the originals, but whoever made the originals, I think it was. And they realized they couldn't do that forever. And the leap they took into God of War 2018 was so drastic and such a risky thing to do, but it worked so well. So it's, some people see it as a reboot, but it's not. I don't know. It's not. The 2018 game starts us off with this like extremely confusing moment where we see that Kratos is chopping a tree and he has a son and now a wife who has passed away. So we automatically get put in this thing of like, what is going on? And I really like that about it. I like that there's a sense of mystery to it, and we're automatically open to see who Kratos is as a character now, after killing the Greek pantheon of gods and his father and being traumatized with that, being covered in the ash of his dead daughter and wife. So we go from that, from all this past trauma and all this anger and all this vengeance, into an almost like a solemn or stoic man who doesn't speak but has a lot to say, in a way. I think that's a good way to say it. But that just sets the tone for this story. The instant feeling of grief and change and loss is immediate within the story, because we can I'll go back a little bit. It's almost incredible how they made us feel so much without knowing who they were burying. Or, well, we knew who it was. We knew it was the wife of Kratos. But we didn't know the connection. We had no emotional connection to these characters, because Kratos is even like a new person. He is nothing like he used to be. And the way they instantly found a way to capture us and capture the feelings they were wanting to put into our brains was just so perfectly executed. Like, I also really want to focus on the transformation Kratos went through. All he was angry. The one issue that is one of the issues I have with that game. It feels with the older games. It might just be because I don't know, but the issue I have with the older games is it is just anger, and I understand that's what they were going for, but I don't like that as much. I don't like he had a reason for being angry, but we never really saw those emotions besides the constant anger and pursuit for vengeance. But now he's transformed into this father who has just lost the love of his life, the woman who changed him and accepted him. And we see he's grown. He has grown, and we see that throughout the entire first game. The dynamic between Kratos and Atreus is the vocal point of the game. And it is really, as the story goes on, you can see the relationship slowly get thinner. we see this big rope holding them together at the start, but then we notice that over time, Atreus is becoming distant and resentful of his father because he knows that Kratos is hiding a secret from him. It explores the idea of fatherhood and like mentorship so well. And I think a reason this idea of the premise of the game hits so hard is the relationship I have with my father. I don't relate to it, but I think it's the idea of it. Seeing Kratos change throughout the game when he was lying to Atreus or hiding the truth of being a god, and then slowly changing and being better. I think it's something that I envy almost, but it's not as big of a thing as some other things. I think a section of a part of the game series I love is the idea that it's all mythology and we're following those rules. I sometimes find it hard to get invested into stories where there is not an established character, or not an established character, but they're completely brand new, which might sound stupid, but with Spider-Man as an example, I've obviously found it really easy to, because I love Spider-Man and it's in movies and comics. And mythology is something you always hear about, and it's always in media. And seeing that being put into a game so perfectly just makes it something else to me. Like, the mythology is just a center stage for us. We see constant creatures that are mentioned in mythology, even the world serpent. Like, the fact it all is linking back towards this is absolutely back to mythology and its origins is so absolutely like interesting to me, because the exploration of the game is so complex as well. It almost rekindles the love or curiosity like I have, or one might have, for mythology, because it gets you interested. It gets you see Jormungandr, the world serpent, and it makes you just perceive everything differently in a way. Like, it's hard to describe how it makes me feel, and I don't think I could. But I'm gonna move on a little bit to why I think this became such an important game for me. And this is more pointing towards the Ragnarok sequel. I feel throughout my entire life I've had very I've had a lot of issues whether that be friends, father, and just trauma. I just haven't had the most perfect childhood or life. And I never really realized that till maybe a year ago or 3 years ago. I think I fully realized it last year, and I'm thankful I have, because in a way, I think the reason it hit so much for me is I realized how angry I had been in the past, and how I acted just because of this anger that I didn't even know existed within me. And it learning to change that behavior and learning to grow was something I didn't think I could. I didn't do with a therapist. I did with myself, because I felt like I could never. A therapist would understand, yeah, but I don't think. I think it was something I needed to work on by myself. And this game, God of War Ragnarok, truly is such a large part of this. Like, as I immerse myself, like, in this world, as I played as Kratos, the game extended beyond the controller or the screen. And I saw myself a bit within Kratos. And over time, applying that was... I applied what he had done and his experience and his past with myself. In the reason I see a bit of myself within Kratos is the anger and the unwillingly, I don't know. I didn't want to let that anger go. And I wouldn't let that go. And I believed that holding that grudge was okay. Or it's okay to hold a grudge, but having all of that anger build up in you and not letting that out, or not trying to overcome this, truly hurts you more. It wouldn't allow me to move any further. I might joke sometimes about hating certain people or whatever, but in the end, I'm not really serious. People who have done me so wrong in the past, I've learnt to forgive them. I've learnt to not forgive them, but not hold all of this hate within myself. And the constant change that Kratos and Atreus experience is just something that resonated me on such a deep personal level. Change has always been such a scary thing for me. Change and growth, I guess. The unwillingly... Oh my God. I didn't want things to change. For a long time in my life, the thought of change horrified me. And when something happened, and that hit me, that one thing that made me change, completely destroyed me, and I felt like a husk of a human. I was not in a good spot. But this was a little bit, just a little bit before I could play God of War. And it helped me so much. And I think I'm forever grateful for this. For what this game did for me. It encouraged me to get better, to take risks. And it made me see so many different things within my life. A big aspect of this game is the idea of fate and what life has in store for you. And Kratos challenges this. He goes against it constantly. He doesn't want this future to happen. He doesn't want to see Atreus kill him. He doesn't want to see Odin rule. He doesn't believe in fate. And he's defying it. He goes out of his way to destroy any chance he has of destroying this fate, destroying this future. But there's a specific moment when Kratos is in... I'm not sure what it is. Alfheim, I think? Hold on. Oh, Vanaheim. Kratos is in Vanaheim with Freya. And we get put in a situation where Heimdall, one of Odin's guards, or one of the gods, attacks us. And the issue within him attacking us was not the... It wasn't the thought of losing. Kratos knew he could defeat Heimdall. The issue was the fate that had been told was that, and the fate that was told about him dying to the hands of Atreus, his son, and Odin ruling over the 9 realms. A part of that was Heimdall getting murdered by Kratos in Vanaheim. And this fight is intense in the way you know that this is the fate, but you don't want to accept it. Well, you or Kratos or both of you don't want to accept it. And Kratos goes against his nature of killing gods to protect him and his son by trying to spare Heimdall, by ripping his arm off and saying that it will not kill you. But in return of that mercy, Heimdall only gets more angry. And Kratos is forced to murder Heimdall. There's a look on his face as he does this, and it's truly something you won't forget if you're connected with this game. The look on his face as he realizes he is going into this fate. He is doing this, even though he is trying to defy it. He is going into this fate. And a character called Mimir, who is by Kratos' hip, says, "Brother, what did you do?" referring to the fate. And I don't think Kratos says anything, because he's realizing that fate is inevitable. Or the more you fight fate, the harder it will be to realize it's very complicated, and you can view it however you please. But it's such a key point, and fate is something I've learnt to love in a way, because I've seen that it has felt like my life forever has had these terrible points within it, like Kratos did. But it always ended up turning out. It always ended up turning out good. And I think some may view it as Kratos defying fate, but I think he doesn't. He tries to, but he has to learn to accept it. Shown by, in the end, when he opens one of the panels that displays fate, written by giants, and it shows him being worshipped like a god, something he did not think he was worthy of. And to me, that shows that he will not defy his fate. He's learned that fate is inevitable, but I could be perceiving that wrong, but who knows? It was like God of War 2018. It was a very amazing game. I think for me, it didn't resonate with me as much as God of War did, though. It's an amazing game. The ending showing Thor at his door, at Kratos' door, and showing that hammer, and then leaving the game for what 5 years was such a big thing to do. And I wanted to see this next chapter. I wanted to see how Kratos is going to deal with this version of Atreus who has slowly become more cocky, more fueled by anger or vengeance or whatever. Because we end up learning that Atreus is the god Loki, the god of mischief. And he gets very arrogant about this, and wanting to see what would happen next is just the only thing I wanted. I think the effect Ragnarok had on me directly afterwards, when I finished the game, was a moment of despair, in a way. I felt so deeply connected with this character, Kratos. And to see such a perfect ending for him, for a man who has who's killed so many men, women, and children. See him grow and change into this man into this worshipped god who saved this place. This god who does not want to fight anyone anymore. He just wants his son to be safe. And seeing that end truly was something beautiful. Seeing Atreus say, leave, and Kratos accept this was such a beautiful moment, and grew, and because at this point Atreus feels honestly more like a son than anything else. And the moment we see them part is, it made me cry a lot. It made me just sit there. It's the only game I've ever sat there and just looked at the credits because I couldn't do anything else. Because I didn't know what to do. Because I didn't want it to be over at all. But I wouldn't have asked for a different ending. If that makes any sense at all. And I don't know how to describe the emotions I felt about it, about the ending, because it's truly something that made me cry, smile, and made me think about all night. The thought of another game worries me, because I would hate for those feelings to then be dissolved by another game where he gets angry. And I'd love another game more than anyone else in this world. But the game needs to make sense and needs to work. It can't just be a cash grab. It can't just be so there's another game to this beautiful franchise. It needs to work and it needs to make sense without destroying the characters that I feel are closer than family in some ways. It's undeniable that this has left an everlasting impression into my life. It is embedded deep into me. The deep storytelling, the character development, and all the little parts of mythology is just an inspiration. Like an inspiration to myself. I didn't expect this game to affect me as much as it did. As I mentioned, God of War 2018 was really good. It was amazing. It had some amazing scenes. It had amazing emotions. It had all of these amazing things. But we didn't see much change. We noticed that a lot more. Well, we did see a lot of change, but I think it really, really hit me when it was 2018. Because that was when I was experiencing it a little bit more. Yeah. God of War 2018 was something beautiful. It was amazing graphics, beautiful voice actors, beautiful models, beautiful everything. But God of War Ragnarok was something I had been waiting for maybe a year or two. And getting to see that play out without any prior knowledge of what would happen in that story was something I could never forget ever. It might be the reason I might feel more connected with Ragnarok is because of the relationship I grew with Atreus and Kratos in the previous game. But even that, I think it's just something I can't even fully express. It's not about the mechanics within the game. It's not even fully about the story or what happens. It's about the change and what he learned that changed me. Learning to change is just such a difficult thing. And it's hard to accept that you need to change. But and anger, letting go of that anger to people, it's a really hard thing. And this story made me realize it was alright and how to actually do it. And it's something I'll forever be grateful for. I don't think I'll ever come across a game like this in my life ever again. I've cried in a lot of games. I've cried in The Last of Us continuously. I've cried in a lot of games. But I didn't just cry in this game because it was sad. I cried in moments when Atreus was yelling at Kratos. I cried when Atreus said, "Don't be sorry, father. Be better." That, usually that's not a scene a usual, I guess, casual gamer would cry at, but I did, because I felt like it was directed towards me. Almost like it wasn't Kratos' model in the game, it was my model. And I think that's why I cried in so many different parts. It's moments like that that truly cement this game into one of the best games of all time, at least within my eyes. It cements it so heavily. When they are storming Asgard, Kratos has a speech telling Atreus to not hold on to his anger, because that is not who he is. And that was such a massive moment, because Kratos, his entire, through 2018 and even a bit of Ragnarok, he's teaching Atreus to hate people. He's teaching Atreus to kill. But there's a realization that hits within him that Kratos has gone through so much and he is trying to change. And he should not try and make his son change for no reason. I think I've gone over everything. I think this fully shows how deeply connected I am with this story and this character. I doubt anyone's listening to this, but if you are, it means a lot. And yeah, thank you.